Hello, good morning, guys. I hope you're doing well. We're about to start for another episode of the Croissant Files live. Yeah, as I'm wearing my glasses, it's still summer here in South Carolina. I don't know about you, but this is a big change for me. I grew up in northeast of France. When in October you already have sweaters, that kind of thing. Even when I was living in Connecticut, it was the same thing. October you start wearing warmer clothes. When here, basically, I wear basically my t-shirts every almost every single day of the year, and I got myself a bunch of things like this. This is official merch. It's not on sale. It's not for sale. I would say just for me. I want to try a couple of things. But anyway, what time is it? 10:15. So might be summer, but glasses are not very useful inside my office. So it's 10:15. Maybe we can wait one more minute. Today we'll talk about usual suspects, geopolitics, economy, and markets. I will go very fast on economy because I'm tired of commenting numbers that will be revised later. If you see what I mean, specifically the jobs data that came out yesterday. It's actually very funny. So we'll talk about geopolitics. The main events, I think, this week, the big ones were Iran striking Israel. Obviously, you had the VP debate, which was interesting, and which the comments surprised me a little bit. And we had market reactions to the jobs and to the Iran strike. So what time is it? 10:16. So let's start now. Okay, what do you think? You don't think? I don't know. Okay, let's move this here so that you can see slightly better. Why is this? Why is not coming up? Oh, who cares? Um, you know what? I tried this as well. It's interesting, right? Well, anyways, I won't bother you with the funny stuff. I still have issues with my tech stuff. I just didn't have really the time to fix everything that I needed to have a better experience in sharing, infographics, maybe videos at some point. Just didn't have the time to work on it, so I will. So let's start. So what do we start with? The VP debate, and basically that image summarize everything about the debate. What I thought was interesting is that obviously JD Vance is a really good communicator. Is very comfortable in front of the camera, which was not the case for Tim Walz. But I was mostly surprised by the comments that I heard and saw after the debate because I always try basically to fight against my own biases, which is obviously leaning on the right. So I'm trying to be, I have a little bit compassion for the other side. I would say that like this. And at the beginning, I thought, even though I was not really convinced by Tim Wolf, that he made a kind of good prestation because most of what people take away from these debates are not the arguments. Actually, most people are taking basically an impression. You know. A likability for someone, and Tim Walsh, I thought that he had lost on this side, but I didn't think that it was so much imbalanced. So, and that's why again, fighting against my own bias. If I would ask me, obviously, I would have told you that JD Vance was better than Tim Walsh, that it was more convincing. But not at that point, considering the comments that we had after the debate. When I saw that obviously the right says, okay, JD Vance won the debate, but that was expected. That kind of coming from that side. What I was surprised is about right after the debate, the left mainstream media admitted that JD Vance had won the debate as well. And I think that one of the reasons is that Tim Walz basically had the same kind of preparation as Kamala Harris for the debate, which was, he learned some specific lines and tried to rush to say his line independently of the question sometimes. And I think that what hurts the kind of impression that he had. And so right after that, the mainstream media went say, okay, I mean, we're in a bad position because he was not comfortable, he was not doing well. JD Vance was much better in terms of communicating his ideas and all that stuff, despite the fact that JD Vance has been kind of, stonewalled by the moderators when they even cut his mic at some point when he was fact checking the fact checkers. Well, you know what I think and what most people think about fact checkers. And so that was interesting. I mean, the left was in big panic after the debate, because obviously they were counting on this to recover from the debate that Kamala Harris definitely lost again against Donald Trump. So they were hoping that they were coming back and they give you a new impulse at the campaign, which was obviously not the case. And that impression from the mainstream media was confirmed the next day. In the photography space, in the artistic space, I'm a photographer as a hobbyist, and so I have quite a few liberal friends. They know what I think. I'm never shy about sharing what I think politically, but most of them basically went into panic mode as well on social media, posting stuff about the lies of JD Vance, all that kind of stuff. They're trying to kind of spin up the conversation around the debates, so that and basically it was kind of so panic mode, which made me think, okay, so the right, was saying that he lost the debate, and the left also said that he lost the debate, which is obviously not good for them. The thing that I'm thinking about after that, and we've seen basically this in the polls. Right after that, the Democrats are losing quite a number of points in the polls, even if these polls are biased, as we know. And this is not a good dynamic, And in a campaign, everything is about momentum, and at this point, the momentum is on Trump-Vance campaign. And the Harris Walz is basically losing steam at this point, which is, 1 month before the general election, is very concerning. Well, at least for them. So I'll stop on the debate about this. There's probably not much more to say. Again, it's a battle of momentums, and we know where the momentum is at this point. At this time, I wanted to come back about the Helen hurricane aftermath, because there's a lot of confusion at this time. We see a lot of reports online. People not even in the area, they are reporting that it's getting crazy and all that stuff. From what I hear from people that have been, I live about an hour and a half from Asheville, for instance. Maybe slightly more. I never been to, despite I've been living here 2 years. But I know a couple of people, again, in the photography community, because Asheville is quite liberal city, so lots of them are going there and have friends there. And I don't hear the crazy story that we hear very often on social media about what's happening, about the death, dead bodies in the trees, in the mud. I honestly, I've not heard about any of this from the people that went there. And even some liberals, people that are obviously voting left. They are kind of pissed about the the reaction of the current administration to these events. So this is basically where we are now. It's interesting. I mean, despite that, I mean, there are reports by Elon Musk, if you've seen this, that the government is blocking aid from government. Specifically, Musk was trying to bring some Starlinks boxes for free for people to have access to internet and be able to communicate outside the world. Basically, he says that he's being blocked to do so, and the government went as far as putting it's more like kind of expression that you use in wartime, so a non-fly zone basically for them to be able to work, for the government rescue teams to be able to work efficiently. But at the same time, what this means is that any external aid that is coming to the place, that wants to come to the place, cannot reach it. Whether even Elon Musk, he doesn't have access, and they don't want him to have access there. So we don't know what's happening there. We know that there's a huge lithium mine that is very important for the independence of the US to be able to for semiconductors as well. So there's a lot of stories around there. I think we will know more in the next weeks or so, but the dynamic that is developing at the moment doesn't look good and doesn't feel right. One last funny thing about the US in geopolitics. Do you remember that the story about Hunter Biden and cocaine in the White House? You probably have heard the rumors by now, but it appears that it was actually not Hunter's cocaine, but they let him take the blame for this because obviously he's a well-known drug addict. But the issue at the time was that it appears that it might have been Harris cocaine, maybe. These are the rumors, and the rumors are that they let Hunter Biden take the blame for this one, just because Harris was still the VP of Biden when he was running at this time, and basically this would have killed his campaign. Just a funny part, and I will stop there. So where do we want to go there? So Eastern Europe. I say this basically every week, but it continues. Russia is still, recovering inch by inch territories. I've been saying this for so many weeks that you would think that they have invaded the total territory of Ukraine. It is not the case. It's a very, very slow process, whether it's in the eastern region of Ukraine, or whether it's in the Kursk region inside Russia that Ukraine had invaded recently. Even I don't know how to say this. État-major, maybe something you can say this in English. The État-major, the top Ukrainian military says that basically they have no more objectives in the Kursk region. This is the kind of thing that we mentioned from the very beginning that didn't really make sense, and even for them now it doesn't really make sense, because and specifically the shift as well, the focus for the US has obviously shifted from Ukraine to the Middle East. And we know what the priorities are for the US. So it's obviously Israel and the Middle East before Ukraine. And the move that they did inside the Kursk area, inside Russia, was probably made to provoke a reaction from Russia, which didn't happen. We've kind of provoke more support from the US, which didn't happen much. I mean, it's still the ongoing regular process, and probably now Ukraine understands that they come second and not first. There's nothing much more to say, I would say, about Ukraine at this point. There were rumors that they attacked a nuclear plant in the Kursk region. No, right above. But anyways, they attacked a nuclear plant, probably again to trigger some bigger reaction from Russia that would force the US to intervene. I think at this time that is these their last options. So in that sense, I understand why they do that. But again, I don't think it will be successful because the first priority for the US remains the Middle East. I have a little thing on Europe, but I will skip this one. It's not really important considering what we have to say about the rest. Okay, you've seen this meme that I've been shared by Elon Musk. Actually, my tax dollars on the Israeli side and my tax dollars on the Iran side, which is exactly true. It's insane, but that's the way it is. We have basically financing Iran, giving them billions under the Obama administrations that allow them basically to rebuild their military as well. And now we're giving dollars to the Israelis to defend themselves, which again serves the U.S. and the military industrial complex. That's basically how it works, my friends. Oh, what did I do? I don't know. What did I do? Minimize. Oh, it doesn't work? Okay. Oh, maybe this one. So, yes. Okay. Where was I? Yeah. So, this is this is basically our tax dollars being spent when we cannot apparently give any money to the victims of the hurricane. We will receive $750 as kind of help. Put that into perspective. I think that's insane, if you ask me. But let's go back to the strike of Iran. I think it's interesting to take a look at this because after the killing of Nasrallah, the head of the Hezbollah, it was expected that Iran would react anyway. But what I believe is more interesting is the way they have responded. They launched basically what was 180 missiles, 180 missiles on Israel, basically to overwhelm the Iron Dome that is protecting the Israeli state. And obviously, when you launch that many missiles, the Iron Dome, the protection cannot hit all of them and protect all of them. And we've seen on many videos on social media that many actually of them actually hit the ground and hit their target. So there are basically two narratives on both sides. Obviously, in a war, I mean, the first casualty of war is always the truth, and you have two stories. You have Iran saying that their missiles have hit 90% of the target, and Iran and Israel and the US says that that basically it was an unsuccessful attack and they intercepted about all of them. So we'll never know where the reality is. But it's true that some of them actually hit the ground. We've seen a lot of videos of it. To what extent, obviously, we don't know. But I think that what is more interesting is that the targets that Iran was aiming at. And these were actually military targets. which again goes back to previous situations like in April, where where you had kind of polite exchange of strike. Every parties had to respond, or from a communication perspective, but they were not hitting any civilian target, which is exactly what Iran did. They targeted military objectives, avoiding as much as possible civilians, which actually they did. I mean, the only part that was potentially impacting civilians was when they struck the Mossad buildings that is in Tel Aviv, I believe. But even that, it not have been widely reported that it hit any civilian, and I believe that if it had hit, we'd know about it. So that's interesting. So it's kind of a polite exchange. We still wait about the next response from Israel, because again, basically in terms of communications, they always have to respond. I believe that the reason they didn't respond by now is because they are carefully selecting the target that they want to hit, so that it can pause at this time and not escalate further. Again, like I said, I don't believe that something will start before the election, despite any provocation. I believe that Israel has an incentive to globalize the conflict at this point. Russia and Iran probably not. And basically, talking about Russia and the support that Russia is bringing to Iran, there are a couple of things to be noted, because there's a close military relationship between Russia and Iran. At this point, you know that Iran is providing Russia with drones that are used actually in Ukraine. On the other side, Russia is basically kind of running their air defense at this point. Why do I say that? Because it provides some jets to the Iran Air Forces. The key point is that the Iran Air Forces are not trained to be able to fly on this jet, which means that these are Russian pilots. And I've seen reports about that, Russian pilots that are actually flying this jet. And on the other side, you also have Russia providing, their what they call this, their S-400 system, anti-missile system, which is the equivalent of the Iron Dome in Israel. And again, I mean, Iran is not trained to be able to run these things. So, which means that the Russian military is probably running it for Iran in Iran. That's how close the relationship is at this time, and this is why I believe, we are, every time we get closer to a global confrontation between the US and Russia, between major power, not a proxy like Israel or Iran, because at some point there will be a direct confrontation. Now, nothing is certain, as we've seen in Syria. You remember, Russia was defending the Syrian airspace when the US was involved in trying to overthrow Bashar al-Assad with Daesh and all that kind of funky stuff. And basically, so the Russians had control of most of the Syrian airspace, and they managed to avoid direct confrontation, which was good, because this could have obviously escalated as well. So this is where we are now. We are very close. One last thing about this maybe is that Russia has called for all its citizens to leave Israel and Lebanon immediately. Obviously, it means that nothing good is coming, and this is very very concerning, I would say at this point. You also see one thing. I had a lot of things to add, but we just don't have the time. The little article from the Jerusalem Post at the bottom, which was saying, is Lebanon part of Israel promised territory? You have to know that at this time, the Jerusalem Post removed this specific article from their website, because they were explaining that they have Israel as also, according to what I've read from this article, according to their scriptures, they have kind of a right, according to the Torah, for the great Israel. And the great Israel means, from, I don't remember the exact term, but there is a river in Egypt, and this river can be interpreted as either the Nile or a river in the Sinai. To the Euphrates, which means including which means Lebanon, which means part of Syria, Jordan, all that kind of stuff. And we know that Netanyahu specifically is heavily influenced by religion. The religious party have obviously a very big influence in Israel. So it might actually be their end game and objective, which will definitely be totally crazy if that would happen. Let me check a couple of things. Oh man, that's cool. I didn't know. Thank you guys. I just I thank you guys. I didn't check the chat. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Daniel, it's interesting that Daniel, all the stuff that you write on LinkedIn, most of the things that you say, we are totally in line, and I love that. And Henrik loves my T-shirt. Henrik, I'll try to go fast. Just if you don't know, more importantly, you can join this guy's live event at 11 a.m. That's why I try to shut this down pretty rapidly. Yes, I know. I know that, but I'm just giving it. Probably the guys that are here already know that you have your own event in basically 20 minutes from now. I really encourage you to join him, and that's why I will stop here. I will stop here to be able to finish in time so that I can join the capitalcafe.live as well. So if you want to join 11 a.m. capitalcafe.live with Henrik and his beautiful wife Laura Louise, beautiful and smart, which obviously it's definitely a plus. Everyone will say that I'm sexist saying this, but you get best of both worlds, I would say. Anyways, Henrik is continuing after that with the Bootlegger Cafe at noon EDT. So the Bootlegger Cafe, I don't know if I will join this one because I may not have the time, but these are for the crazy guys like me who want to speak about things that the most concerning things, I would say, that is happening around us. I will let Henrik say that himself. What can I say? I like to see your comments, guys. That's pretty cool. Attilio, I'm very happy to see you here. Latest jobs reports. Yeah, I will do that in a couple of minutes if I stop playing with these comments. Yeah, I know that denial is not a river. It's the Nile, not denial. I know that I have a pretty shitty English accent, or maybe I should speak English with a French accent like this. Maybe you prefer, and it's easier to understand. But my current accent basically is what I came up with. Guys, deal with it. Love the new T-shirt. Yes, we talk about this. Okay, let me stop having fun with these comments and move on. So nothing much more to say about. I mean, I could go on an hour about this on the Middle East situation because it's very concerning. It might escalate much more than we'd like to do, obviously, but this is where we are now. So economy, by specific request from Attilio Veneziano. That's why I love Italians. I mean, this sounds so good when you say it. It's insane. But anyway, just I mean, you speak Italian. Oh, I don't, but when you hear Italian, you immediately feel happier, don't you think? Well, at least that's how I feel. So let's go to economy. Why don't you want to go to economy, my friend? Okay, so my take on the jobs reports that everyone got crazy yesterday. So let me give you a little bit of background about these job reports. We've had the job reports since the beginning of the year. It was all fake data, all fake. All of them had been revised down, which means that I think it was a bit. It's about more than a half of the jobs created were actually not created. The number that I have in mind, I didn't check, but the number that I have in mind was that 800,000, more than 800,000, sorry, of jobs were actually totally fake. It's insane. And within the actual real job created, most of them were created by the government, which means that you don't have any growth at this time in the economy. The stock market, like I said in the post this week, you have the stock market and the economy seems to be two continents that are drifting away strongly at this point because the stock market is a reflection of the liquidity that is injected in the market. When you basically reduce interest rates like the judges in 50 bips. But the number that came yesterday was so strong, something shared by my friend Andrew Rosenberg. The payroll estimates number was representing a 4 sigma move, which is basically never happens at this point. 4 sigma move versus what was expected. This is the kind of event that happens basically every, I think he made the calculation, it was every 300 something years, but it happened now and 1 month before the election. And the next number that will come out will be after the election. So they said, okay, we have a massive creation of jobs. It's insane. We are doing well. Our job with Joe and Kamala is amazing. We are creating jobs. We're just getting the fruits of what we've been doing so far. And they had a revision of the August number. So there's no reason to think that these numbers are correct. Just because they were not in the past, not because I don't like the current administration, but because they were fake in the past. There's no reason to think that they are suddenly good, and specifically when they are on the good side. Again, we've seen that the jobs mostly come from the government. It's transfer from full-time, this is the bottom chart here, from full-time to part-time jobs. Which is another way, basically if you go, I don't know exactly how the calculation is made, but the first reaction that I had when I was seeing this is that, okay, if you want a full-time equivalent to, you may need 2 part-times jobs to create a full-time equivalent job, which means that you multiply the number of jobs by two, just by doing that. So that's kind of insane. But we know that the market reacts not on the reality, but the current narrative. The market is about guessing what the other will think, and it's a kind of dog tail thing. Which one, it is the dog or the tail that is moving the other one. At this time, it's probably the tail that is moving the dog, if you want to see it like this. So it's the current situation is a little bit, economic situation is a little bit, I would say, disturbing. It doesn't make much sense, because stock, I was reading this yesterday. So you had the stock rising like there's no recession at this time. You have gold prices are rising like we are heading into a recession. The oil prices are going up like we'll have World War III. You have bond prices are falling, like with geopolitical tensions potentially. You have the tech stocks that are rising like risk appetite is all-time high. So nothing of this makes sense, and this is where I say that there's a disconnection between the reality and the narrative that is propelling the stock market at this point. Well, I don't want to say much more, but it's insane. So just so you know, if you want the exact number that I have here, the U.S. economy had 254,000 jobs in September, according to their estimates, when the expectation was 147,000 jobs, and you have an unemployment rate going down 4.1%, which makes me wonder. And everyone wonder, so what was the 50 base rate cut for then? If the economy is so strong, the job market is so strong. I think I've talked about this in my newsletter last week. I need to accelerate again. For Henrik, it's sexy, baby. Yes, it is. I know I'm sexy. I'm hot as F. I stopped being disturbed. I need to be stopped being disturbed by this guy. It's always a lot of fun, but I will never finish in time. Anyways, what was I saying? Yes, I mean, there's a total disconnection between the narrative and the reality. There was no reason to cut by 50 bips. Is the reason? If the situation, we're going into a soft landing, and the situation is amazing on the economic side, on the employment side. Now we know, again, we always go back to the debt because that's the mother of all bonds. Basically, the ones that need the most the interest rate cut is the Fed itself, and the banks as well. So we know there's something fishy happening on the banking sector at this point. You have Warren Buffett dumping his Bank of America stocks. By the way, Buffett dumping his Bank of America shares on the market. It will soon be under the limit of 10% of all the shares on the market, which means that the next sales that he will be doing will be he won't have basically to report it to the regulator, which means that he will be able to hammer sell in a very short term the rest of his Bank of America exposure if he wants or if he needs to, which again is interesting in terms of manipulation of the market, because when Warren Buffett started selling his Bank of America shares, Bank of America, started a buyback program, which basically gave Warren Buffett a floor for selling his Bank of America shares. So, that kinds of make you wonder. I mean, like the late George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it. I mean, this is for me the best comic in the US. What can we say about that? I'd like to give you more information, Attilio, about the jobs report, but that's what I think. it's painful and to comment on stuff that you know it's probably fake, even though it's driving the markets anyway. So this is where we are. So I will go now to the market, and I probably will switch to the other presentation. Okay, no, let's do this. Yes, much better. So let's go back. I mean, yes. So we've seen, so this week on the markets. I mean, the markets were, kind of flat for the week. It dropped on the iron strike and then recovered slowly and then came back again with the job reports like today. It's funny part is basically that bad news was good news at some point for interest rates. Yesterday, good news was good news. So this is where we are now. So basically, what we have, stocks going up, you have bonds going down. Also interesting in this heat map on the market is that volatility is going up at this time. To me, the current situation has flavors of 2007, when the market was going up and the volatility was slowly, progressively inching up. To me, there are basically two types of markets. You have the smart markets and the dumb markets. I would say that the equity market is the dumb market and the smart markets are the bond markets and the volatility market. So it's always important to understand what the bond market is telling you. For instance, 2022, it was inflation narrative. 2007, we had to pay attention to the volatility slowly crippling up. Just we have like today. So it's really, I think it's really important to see that. So you had on this week crude oil going up quite significantly on the tensions, which again is interesting because we didn't have what is this? No, it's not this. What do I do? Yes, maybe this. You remember on the last strikes between Iran and Israel, actually crude oil didn't move much to geopolitical tensions, even in Ukraine. This time, crude oil is going up, which may, mean that actually something is happening, something different is happening, and probably more concerning at this point. So we'll have to see. But again, so I think that the biggest story of this week is that crude oil is going up, volatility is going up in a market flat. So I don't have it here, but the term structure of the volatility term structure is now flat or slightly in backwardation, which indicates a concern for the very short term. Again, it didn't have much happen over when we had the previous geopolitical tensions before. We still have gold around its all-time highs, sticking to its all-time highs. Equity markets kind of flat overall, but the bigger story is obviously the bonds going down at this point, and the yen goes down as well. The USD recovering strength. So what can we say about that? So that's the S&P. Basically, you see the drop on the strike and slow recover after that. Then we have the VIX. If I can remove myself, yes, like this. We have the VIX that is creeping up. We are in an uptrend basically since the beginning of August. Again, I would say that it's still pretty similar to what we experienced in 2007. I'm not a big fan of comparisons, but it seems that the market concerns are rising at this point. You have the bonds. You see on the jobs market reports on Friday, the bonds experienced quite a significant drop, not unseen, obviously, but quite significant that might break the uptrend that we've seen. Not at this time, but if you were a technical analyst, basically it's a pullback to to the resistance line, and that may go up after that. Probably that the government will have to cut interest rates for itself and the banking sector. I mentioned it's possible that it might go up again. I have no idea unless the inflation is starting picking up again. So emerging markets, interesting story about the emerging markets, because what I've read, it appears that one of the reasons that the US is not going up as much, considering the liquidity that is being injected in the market, and the emerging markets are rising pretty significantly at this time, is I've seen from an economist and a money manager that I respect a lot, Vincent Gav. The guy is advising billions for institutional, and I like his analysis basically. And it's very focused on Asia at this time. And what he said was very interesting is that the BRICS and Asia in particular, specifically Asia, are starting retrieving back some assets from the US to the Asian markets. This is something that I've mentioned a little before, is that the growth in the future, the largest growth in the future will probably be more in Asia than in the Western countries. And that would kind of justify more assets going to Asia and the emerging markets rather than, fueling the US further. And now it depends again on geopolitical tension. The US would still be a safe haven, basically. So that's the point. But I think that the repatriation of the assets of Asian investor inside Asia is an interesting one. Gold, like I said, still sticking to the top, which makes a lot of sense. Interest rate cuts, obviously, potentially more inflation and geopolitical tension. Everything is there to give gold some support at this point. The evolution will be obviously dependent on what's coming next geopolitically and on interest rate side. Actually, if you look at this, the gold didn't react much to expectations of rate cuts after the Friday jobs report. So that's maybe doesn't believe it or understand that they'll have to cut rates anyway. And Powell said this week that they'll still stick to the plan of cutting 2 more times 25 bips this year in 2024. So nothing changed much at this point. So that's the oil. I mentioned the oil before, coming back inside this big wedge. What's interesting is that all these wedge is converging to something like basically the US election, between the US election and January, when the next administration will be in power, actually. Really, I would say. And I believe that most of these converging patterns basically will break around this time, depending on who will win the election. So what I'm expecting is that whatever side, I won't tell you if it's on the upside or the downside, but if there is no specific major geopolitical escalation, I think that all these converging patterns, like on oil, we have this on Bitcoin as well, they will converge and they will break out by the time of the new administration is decided. And and will take power. So that's a very cross market dynamic that we'll see. You see that the yen is weakening again. The dollar is getting stronger after the and interest rate interpretation. Basically, that's the carriage rate, which is led by the difference between the differential of interest rates between two currencies. So that's where we are at this time. So guys, it's 11 a.m. and 3 minutes. Went a little bit beyond what I was expecting. Again, I really encourage you to go to the Capital Cafe live. That is live now. Henrik must have started a couple of minutes ago already. It's always very interesting, always fun. I encourage you to join, like I will in the next couple of minutes. Thank you very much for being there. Thank you very much for all the comments. That is much more fun for me to do. Thank you, and see you next week for the next live, and on Monday for the new